XCN Onyxcoin quietly hit a critical level. No one is talking about this. XCN just hit a level that historically leads to either a breakout or a breakdown, and almost nobody is paying attention to it right now after months of bleeding out. Now, don't get scared with this chart. We're going to get into it. Like, subscribe, become a member if you want. Shout out to those who are members, the whole nine of you out of the 2,200 people watching. 50% of your donations are going to save animals' lives. Once we accumulate enough, it's definitely taking some time because it's very minimal money accumulated throughout the time. And for those of you who haven't done it, I know there's 20 of you who may have. Somebody's earning like 4 XRP a day playing this game. It's very easy once you get it going. You just start earning passive rewards. As you can see, I've earned 729 Doge, XRP. There's Tron. I got some Polygon, Solana, blah, blah, blah. There's a reference link for this game in the description below. And if you use that reference link, you get 1,000 Satoshi Bitcoin free immediately. Now let's actually get into the TA and the data behind this, as this video is just for XCN holders. I will do another video on XRP, but let's look at this chart, Coin Codex. It's a great platform to kind of go over information, but almost always is incorrect with their price predictions, because right around this time, it was stating that XCN was going to continue to drop, and clearly it didn't do that. It had a major pump. Same with right now, it's saying XCN is going to flatline. Highly doubt it. Um, but over the course of the years, when you go through this data, like for example, the investment calculator, they say November 25th, 2026, if you invested 1,000, your profit would be 131%. And that doesn't make any sense with the graph that they show here, as it should just be flatlined according to them. It's always doing your own research, getting the information, piecing it together. As you can see in their charts down here, like August, 10% increase, change, 112% by December. Not saying those time frames are out of mind. I do think we are going to get hundreds of percent prior to December. Definitely July is going to be a major date. And if you're looking at this chart, for example, you can kind of compare this to what we've been looking at within XCN's chart from the past couple months, just going over the data and saying, all right, this purple line, more or less the resistance on the downward wedge. You have the upward wedge more or less forming, if you guys can kind of visualize that off the bottom. And the green line, I assume being roughly the 200 EMA. Probably not. It's got a dip. But this is just a bunch of information you can kind of go over and just kind of piece it together what you think the possibilities would be. But with all information that you guys are picking up and doing your own research, take it with a bucket of salt, not just a grain of salt, an entire bucket, because you're going to get mixed information. You're going to say, one day Bitcoin's going up and the market's going to continue to go up. The next day they say, oh, there's a major liquidity sweep coming. So everybody is guessing. I even saw somebody say they use an algorithmic chart or algorithm to do their trading. They don't just guess. They're FOS, in my opinion. You could use an algorithm. Yeah, there's bots and stuff like that, but everybody is essentially guessing where the market's going to go. And if you're using a bot, the bot's not guessing, it's doing algorithm based trading. Will XCN reach $1? Needs to gain 20,000%. It's not out of mind. They say the algorithm, according to their algorithm, 5 cents by 2049. There's repricing about to happen for XCN, so I can't imagine it would take 20 years to get the repricing going only to 5 cents, seeing as how its all-time high was 18 cents, $10, 209,000%. Yeah, that's a little bit more debatable. So, like I was saying, with all the information that you are picking up, definitely do your own research and choose the correct things for yourself, right? I can give you this information and tell you one way or another, but I am not a financial advisor. I'm just presenting this information so you guys can do your educated guessing off of the information I'm providing. And here's another thing, kind of like the overview of XCN, for example. 2025, it's saying 293%. Obviously, it was like 2,000% increase. in 2025 at the end of it, but that's all by the wayside. Fada. And then one thing I did want to bring up is El Smart Money Comprar 10 millones. I think it's billions. Essentially, all you need to see in this little area is retail sentiment 99% negative, exchange outflows February 2026, falling wedge pattern. All right, so that's about all the information you need from that because that is what we are talking about. The falling wedge pattern. The two big black downward trend lines, and we will make this dotted for simplicity or dashed. That's essentially the centerfold. That's where we see more or less support, and resistance, right? That's just the centerfold. It's not really any indicator of anything. But something you would want to take a look at for XCN is the RSI, this blue upward trend line. We broke below that, which is essentially showing it is being more oversold. In turn, is bearish, right? If it breaks this black upward trend line, it can potentially drop even further. The fair value gap is in between these two red lines, roughly 0.0039 to 0.0048, and it's trying to hold that support because you could always readjust this slightly. We are all making just educated guesses off of what everybody else is buying and selling. And a lot of people don't keep in mind that there's leverage trading, there's institutions, there's a bunch of stuff that's not really seen within the market. Um, when you're trading yourself, you're thinking it's me against the market. It's not. There's a lot of other things that go into it. And as we see, this yellow line here is when Goliath Net went live, and we are essentially waiting for the repricing to happen. Can take weeks for it to happen. With the Clarity Act happening here on the 29th, it needs to happen before the 29th. We can start seeing some major reversal. But keep in mind, XCN still, if it breaks this black downward trend line, has the possibility to range in here. It also has the possibility to tap down here. And as we know in crypto, it still has the possibility to do a liquidity sweep, test that previous low, and then work its way back within this wedge towards this black downward trend line. That is essentially what needs to be broken. We've talked about it many, many times in this channel. And essentially, we're playing the waiting game. It all revolves around Bitcoin and what Bitcoin is going to decide to do. And when we actually dig into Bitcoin a little bit deeper, we see that it's got the upward wedge, typically more than likely a bearish pattern. Do your own research, figure out your upward wedges, downward wedges, and the probabilities of it going up or down. And now we see that it pushed out of this wedge right here. When was that? March 28th, 26th. We had the push down, came up, retested that upward trend line, found it as resistance, pulled back a little bit, but this candle right here is indecision. It's got wick offs on both sides. It's right in the center. And that is essentially what my channel is based around, NC Hammer, because this could be potential hammer, very minimal. Like looking back at this date on the 28th of February, this is essentially a hammer where it's got the major wick off. A bunch of people bought it back up, and the hammer forced it back up to the upside to 74,000. When we break Bitcoin down into a smaller time frame, we'll go as low as 15 minutes, and we start digging into this. It's trying to build those higher highs. It's trying to get above this previous point around 67,000. Got a little bit of rejection, 200 EMA causing some weight on there, but we are also building higher lows. Let's zoom out. Let's go to the 4 hour. In the 4 hour, same thing. It's trying to close above its previous high, being this blue candle. We need to get up above this blue line here around 67,000. CM Guppy's pretty thinned out. And in the bigger picture, you could essentially see a W forming, right? Well, let's go to the daily. It doesn't look the best in the daily because we are below that wedge. Just being below that wedge is pretty significant. shows that there's resistance. And when we zoom out into the even bigger picture, looking at like this blue ray here, right in this range, this 148 top and this 75,000 bottom, that's essentially what we are trying to hold above, because the next drop is down here to around 46, 47,000. And that would essentially be the liquidity sweep before the reversal. And it's still a possibility. The reason I say it's still a possibility, and we're still talking about XCN within this video, let's pull up the chart in case you guys are just skimming through the video to look at the XCN chart. Bitcoin, back in previous history, say for example, we could be in this area right here in April or May to July, right? We have the consolidation underneath the 200 EMA, a drop consolidation, and then one more drop, acting like it's going to have that range all the way down here to 21,000, but immediately next day gets bought right back up. When a lot of traders see this, they see, okay, we closed below the previous low. Let's get out. We don't want to be in this anymore. And then it starts going in their favor. They're like, okay, yeah, we made the right decision. And it closes like, oh, this is going to continue to drop. Psych, pulls right back up. Those people are either buying back in right where they sold off or a little bit above, losing the profitability, pushes up over the 200 EMA, tested as support, continuation. What if we're not there? What if we're here? Downward trend line. We had the drop, well, essential market manipulation, push further down, held that support right on that purple line, consolidation, drop again, consolidation till we broke the downward black trend line. Then once we broke it, we tested it as support again, consolidation, push over the 200 EMA, and continuation. So there's things to keep in mind, not just looking at the XCN chart. Yes, this was manipulated on October 10th. Yes, on October is when XRP was being put test network with Bloom, which is essentially the authority of Singapore. It's a lot of information you guys should look up. But let's dig back into XCN. Its possibility does have the possibility to drop as low as this black downward trend line, where we would more than likely hit support, and that is if Bitcoin drops. Say Bitcoin pulls back up into its upward wedge, we could see XCN get its consolidation, potentially test that 200 EMA, test the downward trend line, and if we can get out and over this black downward trend line, that's essentially where you guys should be looking for your entry point. If you haven't entered into XCN, that's your opportunity. If you're going to be dollar cost averaging or just building up, because it is extremely cheap at this moment. Even though it's 0.004, yes, it could hit lower, but we have a lot of support down here at 0.0015, extremely low point. Does have the possibility to do that liquidity sweep all the way down there and then back up, which is essentially this. It's not seen in crypto to have a major liquidity sweep in whatever exchange and immediately pull back up. And I can show you a prime example of that for XRP in Binance. I showed it in a previous video, but look at this right here. This wick off, that was just in Binance. You don't see that in Coinbase. So there's the possibility of having these major liquidity sweeps, and referencing back to XCN. This is all over the place, but hopefully you guys are still here. I know you guys watched for like 4 minutes and you're gone, but referencing XCN, what is this? This is not something that you typically want to see, but this is a possibility in XCN. Major liquidity sweep out of nowhere, from being up around 9-10 cents down to fractions of a penny and back within days. 1 day, actually. It was a 1 day turnaround. A bunch of people had liquidity down here. buy orders. They were selling up here, immediately buying it back, immediately profiting hundreds and hundreds of percentages. And XCN has the possibility to do just that, even though it can potentially pull down. If people have their sell stops within this area get liquidated, immediately pull back up, and that would be the slingshot launching this thing immediately towards this black downward trend line, hopefully breaking up over it, not running away too quick, keeping the 200 EMA nice and close, and then coming down, testing the downward trend line. 200 EMA, 200 EMA says, I'm tired of it, and does something similar to like we saw back here in January of 2025, where it had the major 2000% push. We're not looking at a minimum of 5 cents. We're not looking at a minimum of 10 cents. We're looking at 18 cents and beyond. So for those of you who have been stacking this entire time, smart thinking. You guys are preparing for takeoff. Yes, it's been bleeding out all year. Sorry for those of you guys who entered crypto right whenever this thing took off. Welcome to it. So, hopefully, this is informative. Hopefully, you guys know the potentials of the downside are still there, especially with Bitcoin trying to hold that wedge, get up into it. If Bitcoin enters back into the wedge, we can potentially see it push back up to the top and still pull back down to the 42,000. It's not out of sight. So keep all that information in mind. Do your own research and good luck. Have fun with it. Like, subscribe, donate, become a member if you want. Get the high ROI coins before anybody else sees them. And I will see you guys on the next one.